The massive alien ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system like dark thunderclouds blocking out the stars. Commander Thal stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the primitive blue world through the main display. His scaled hands gripped the command console as he counted 12 smaller vessels, falling into formation around his dreadnought. The humans would surrender quickly like all the others. Admiral Roth received the first warning from the deep space sensors while drinking coffee in his office on Luna Station. The readings made no sense at first. 47 alien vessels had just appeared where empty space existed moments before. He dropped his cup and ran to the command center where Lieutenant Davis was already pulling up tactical displays. The alien fleet moved through space with the confidence of predators who had done this countless times before. Commander Thal had conquered 19 worlds for the Galactic Federation. These humans would be number 20. His sensors showed scattered settlements across the planet's surface and a few small orbital stations. Nothing that could threaten his massive war fleet. Captain Walsh stood in the briefing room deep beneath the Rocky Mountains watching the alien formation approach Earth. The underground facility had been built 50 years ago, when humanity first detected signs of galactic civilization. Every major government had contributed resources to this moment. The aliens thought they were dealing with a primitive species, but humanity had been preparing for this day since the first radio signals from space. The standard ultimatum came 12 hours after the alien arrival. Surrender within one solar rotation or face complete destruction. The message played in dozens of languages across every communication channel on Earth. Commander Thal expected the usual panic and desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, he received a simple response requesting more time to consider the terms. Lieutenant Davis floated in his stealth ship hidden among the asteroids beyond Mars. The reconnaissance vessel looked like nothing more than another piece of space rock drifting in the belt. His sensors recorded every detail of the alien ships while staying completely invisible to their detection systems. The enemy formations followed predictable patterns that human strategists had studied for decades. Admiral Roth coordinated the evacuation of major cities while maintaining the illusion of normal civilian activity. Transport ships disguised as commercial vessels moved millions of people to underground shelters that had been prepared across the globe. To alien sensors, the planet looked unchanged. The humans appeared to be going about their daily lives while their leaders debated surrender. The Corvani commander grew impatient as the deadline approached. His tactical officers reported no military preparations on the planet below. No fleets launching, no defensive positions being prepared. The humans seemed paralyzed by fear, just like every other species the Federation had encountered. He decided to demonstrate his power with a small strike against one of their population centers. Captain Walsh received confirmation that all civilian evacuations were complete. The final phase could begin. Across the solar system, human forces activated systems that had been hidden for generations. Military installations that appeared to be mining operations or research stations began their true purpose. The aliens had been watching humanity for weeks, but they had seen only what humans wanted them to see. General Park supervised the activation sequence from his command post beneath the Sahara Desert. Thousands of engineers and technicians brought online weapon systems that existed in no official records. Railgun installations emerged from what looked like geological formations. Orbital mirrors disguised as communication satellites adjusted their positions. The most advanced camouflage technology in human history prepared to reveal itself. The alien fleet moved into close orbit around Earth with weapons charging for their demonstration strike. Commander Thal selected New York City as his target. The destruction of 8 million humans would surely break any remaining resistance. His finger moved toward the firing control as proximity alarms suddenly screamed. Across his bridge, something impossible was happening on the tactical displays. Human settlements were disappearing from sensors one by one. Not destroyed, but simply vanishing as if they had never existed. Cities that registered clearly moments before now showed as empty terrain. His sensor officers ran diagnostics while REPORTNG that all equipment functioned normally. Lieutenant Davis, watched from his hidden position as the first human defensive systems came online. Adaptive camouflage fields rippled across Earth like water disturbed by falling stones. Entire metropolitan areas shimmered and faded from view as metamaterial arrays bent electromagnetic radiation around massive structures. What the aliens thought were primitive settlements had been carefully disguised. Military complexes all along. The Corvani commander demanded explanations while his tactical displays emptied of targets. Warning signals indicated weapons locks from positions that showed nothing but empty space. His ships were being targeted by systems that did not exist according to every sensor on his fleet. The humans had somehow made their entire civilization invisible, Captain. Walsh smiled as he watched alien formations break apart in confusion. For 50 years humanity had prepared for this moment. Every aspect of human civilization had been restructured around the concept of fighting an enemy with superior technology. The answer was not to match their firepower, but to make sure they could never find targets to shoot at. The first counterattack came without warning. Railgun projectiles streaked from apparently empty space, punching through alien shields that were not raised against attacks from clear areas. Corvani vessels took damage from weapons that fired from positions their instruments insisted contained nothing but vacuum. Commander Thal realized he was fighting an enemy unlike any the Federation had encountered. These humans did not follow the standard patterns of primitive resistance. They had turned their entire star system into a weapon that his forces could not see until it was too late. The prey had become the predator, and his mighty fleet was stumbling blind through a carefully prepared trap. Admiral Roth gave the order to begin full offensive operations. Across the solar system, human forces that had been hiding for weeks finally revealed themselves. The greatest deception in military history was complete. The aliens had come to conquer a primitive world, but found themselves facing an enemy that had mastered the art of becoming invisible. The Corvani fleet advanced toward Earth with weapons charging and targeting systems locked onto major human cities. Commander Thal felt confident as his massive dreadnought led the formation into close orbital range. His sensors showed clear targets below and no sign of effective resistance. The demonstration bombardment would break human morale within minutes. Captain Walsh watched the alien approach from his hidden command center buried 3 kilometers beneath the Colorado Mountains. Banks of monitors showed the enemy fleet moving exactly as human strategists had predicted. Every aspect of this moment had been planned and rehearsed thousands of times. He gave the activation signal to stations across the globe. The first human settlement vanished from alien sensors like smoke dissolving in wind. Detroit simply stopped existing according to Corvani instruments, while the city actually shimmered under adaptive camouflage fields that bent light and electromagnetic radiation around the entire metropolitan area. Metamaterial arrays built into every structure created a perfect invisibility cloak. Lieutenant Commander Ross coordinated the global activation sequence from Luna Station. One by one, major population centers disappeared from enemy detection systems. London faded first, followed by Tokyo, then Moscow. To alien observers, the planet appeared to be emptying as millions of humans simply vanished along with their cities and infrastructure. The Corvani tactical officers ran emergency diagnostics as their displays cleared of targets. Sensor arrays that had functioned perfectly for centuries suddenly showed nothing but empty terrain, where massive human settlements had existed moments before. Commander Thal demanded explanations while proximity alarms warned of weapons locks from positions that registered as vacuum. Dr. Martinez supervised the revelation of Luna Station's true nature as defensive platforms emerged from mining complexes. Across the moon's surface, what aliens had dismissed as primitive resource extraction operations transformed into sophisticated weapons installations. Particle beam arrays and railgun batteries pivoted toward the enemy fleet while remaining invisible to their detection systems. The camouflage technology extended far beyond simple visual deception. Human engineers had spent decades perfecting metamaterials that could manipulate electromagnetic radiation across the entire spectrum. Radar signatures disappeared. Thermal emissions scattered into background noise. Even gravitational sensors found nothing but the expected mass of planetary bodies. Captain Reed piloted her stealth fighter through the confusion of the alien formation. Her ship's adaptive hull made her indistinguishable from the space debris and cosmic dust surrounding the enemy vessels. She watched Corvani crews firing randomly at empty space while human forces coordinated precise strikes against their confused formations. The first human counterattack shattered the alien confidence completely. Railgun rounds fired from apparently empty space punched through shields that were not raised against attacks from clear sectors. Particle beams struck from multiple directions while the Corvani fleet stumbled blind through what had become a carefully orchestrated ambush. Commander Thal ordered his fleet to retreat to a safe distance but discovered that human stealth technology extended throughout the entire solar system. Ships that had been drifting dark and cold among the asteroids for weeks suddenly revealed themselves by opening fire. The aliens found themselves surrounded by enemies they could not see until weapons fire lit up the darkness. Colonel Torres emerged from the hidden base beneath Mare Tranquillitatis, leading a squadron of fighters that had been camouflaged as surface installations. The alien fleet faced attacks from directions their sensors insisted were empty while human forces used their invisibility to coordinate devastating crossfire patterns against the confused enemy formations. The psychological effect proved as destructive as the physical damage. Corvani crews reported impossible sightings of human vessels that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. Some alien ships began firing on each other, convinced that cloaked human infiltrators had somehow penetrated their formations. The disciplined alien fleet dissolved into chaos as fear replaced tactical thinking. Major Blake coordinated with Deep Space monitoring stations that had been disguised as scientific research platforms for decades. These installations had been tracking every alien vessel that entered local space, while appearing to conduct harmless astronomical observations. The enemy had been watched and studied long before they announced their presence. Human special forces, equipped with personal adaptive camouflage suits, began boarding disabled alien vessels. The Corvani Marines could not fight enemies who registered as nothing more than background electromagnetic noise. Thermal signatures scattered into ambient heat. Movement sensors detected only the normal vibrations of ship operations. The tide of battle turned completely as more human forces revealed themselves throughout the solar system. Ships emerged from hiding places among the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Weapons platforms that had been camouflaged as communication relays began broadcasting targeting data. The alien invasion had walked into the most sophisticated trap in military history. Commander Thal realized he was fighting an enemy that had turned the vast emptiness of space into their hunting ground. Every shadow potentially held human forces waiting in ambush. His mighty fleet found itself outmaneuvered by opponents who could strike from anywhere and disappear without trace. Admiral Roth coordinated the expanding human offensive from his command center as reports flooded in from across the solar system. The deception had worked perfectly. The aliens had come expecting to face a primitive civilization, but instead encountered predators who had mastered the art of becoming invisible. The remaining Corvani vessels attempted to form defensive positions, but could not target enemies they could not detect. Human forces pressed their advantage using coordinated attacks from multiple vectors while staying hidden behind their adaptive camouflage fields. The hunters had become the hunted in a battle unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Corvani fleet scattered in every direction as human forces pressed their invisible assault. Commander Thal watched his tactical display show weapons fire from empty space while his own shots struck nothing but vacuum. His proud war fleet was being torn apart by enemies that existed only as muzzle flashes and impact signatures on his damaged hulls. Captain Reed dove her stealth fighter between two alien cruisers that were firing wildly at shadows. Her adaptive camouflage made her ship appear as nothing more than cosmic debris drifting through the battle zone. She launched torpedoes at point blank range before vanishing again into the electromagnetic chaos surrounding the confused enemy formation. The human offensive expanded across the entire solar system as hidden installations revealed their true purpose. Admiral Roth coordinated strikes from the buried command complex beneath the Sahara Desert while watching orbital mirrors redirect focused sunlight into devastating beam weapons. What aliens had dismissed as communication satellites became precision death rays, controlled by invisible operators. Dr. Kim's breakthrough in quantum field manipulation allowed human vessels to mask even their gravitational signatures. Ships, weighing thousands of tons, simply disappeared from every exotic sensor the aliens possessed. The Corvani found themselves fighting opponents, who had apparently learned to violate the basic laws of physics. Lieutenant Commander Ross supervised the activation of underground rail gun installations that emerged from geological formations across Earth's surface. Mountain ranges split open to reveal massive electromagnetic launchers that had been built into the planet's crust over decades. Projectiles fired from these hidden positions struck alien vessels with the force of controlled meteors. The psychological warfare proved as effective as the physical attacks. Corvani crews reported impossible encounters with human ships that materialized from nowhere only to disappear again seconds later. Some alien vessels opened fire on their own formations, convinced that cloaked enemies had infiltrated their ranks. General Park led coordinated ground operations as human special forces equipped with personal adaptive camouflage suits boarded crippled alien vessels floating helpless in Earth's orbit. The Corvani Marines found themselves fighting opponents who appeared as nothing more than distortions in the air until combat knives found their targets. Commander Thal attempted to rally his remaining ships into a defensive formation but discovered that human forces had anticipated every possible tactical response. Wherever his fleet moved, they found enemies already waiting in ambush positions. That should have been empty space according to every sensor reading. The camouflage technology extended beyond mere invisibility into complete sensory deception. Human engineers had created metamaterials that could generate false signatures, making single ships appear as entire fleets while actual attack formations registered as harmless debris. The aliens fought ghosts while real threats approached from directions they never considered. Captain Foster revealed that human scout vessels had been tracking the alien invasion force since before they entered the solar system. Long-range stealth reconnaissance ships had mapped every detail of Corvani technology and identified critical weaknesses that were now being exploited with surgical precision. The battle became a nightmare of confusion and terror for the alien forces. Weapons fired from positions that instruments insisted were empty. Targeting systems locked onto signatures that vanished the moment weapons activated. The disciplined formations that had conquered 19 worlds dissolved into panicked individual actions. Colonel Barnes supervised the deployment of adaptive camouflage fields around damaged human installations, making them appear destroyed while repair crews worked invisibly to restore combat capability. The aliens celebrated successful strikes against targets that continued fighting from positions they thought had been eliminated. Human forces used their invisibility advantage to coordinate devastating crossfire patterns that caught alien vessels between multiple attack vectors. Ships found themselves taking damage from weapons that fired from empty space, while their return fire struck nothing but vacuum. The psychological pressure mounted as crews realized they were fighting an impossible enemy. The few Corvani vessels that managed to escape the immediate battle zone discovered that human hunter-killer squadrons had been positioned throughout local space waiting for exactly this moment. Ships that had been drifting powered down for months among the asteroid belts suddenly ignited their engines and began pursuit. Major Torres' lead fighter. Squadrons that emerged from camouflaged positions on various moons and planetoids across the solar system. The aliens found themselves hunted through their own retreat routes by enemies who knew every hiding place and approach vector in human space. Commander Thal realized that his invasion had been expected and prepared for on a scale he could barely comprehend. Every aspect of human civilization had been restructured around the concept of fighting an enemy with superior technology. The solution was not to match alien firepower, but to ensure the enemy could never find targets, the remaining alien communications. buzzed with panicked reports about humans who fought like supernatural beings. Stories spread of ships that could become invisible at will and warriors who moved through solid matter. The psychological damage extended far beyond the immediate battle as word of the impossible human capabilities reached other Corvani fleets. Dr. Martinez intercepted alien transmissions, calling desperately for massive reinforcements while warning other Federation forces about humanity's terrifying stealth technology. The confident invasion had become a rescue operation as the survivors pleaded for help against an enemy they could not understand or effectively fight. Admiral Roth watched the tactical displays show complete human dominance across the solar system. The deception had exceeded every optimistic projection. The species that had cowered before alien threats just days earlier now hunted their would-be conquerors through the darkness of space like apex predators who had found their perfect hunting ground. The surviving Corvani vessels limped away from Earth's orbital zone, trailing plasma from ruptured hulls and sparking electronics. Commander Thal counted less than half his original fleet still capable of hyperspace jump while human forces continued their relentless invisible pursuit. What had begun as a routine conquest had become the worst military disaster in Federation history. Captain Foster coordinated the deep space interception as human hunter-killer squadrons revealed themselves throughout local star systems. Ships that had been drifting dark and cold for months suddenly burst to life with engines blazing and weapons charging. The alien retreat became a running battle through space that offered no sanctuary from their invisible hunters. Lieutenant Ross supervised operations from monitoring stations that had masqueraded as harmless scientific research platforms for decades. These installations had been recording every alien vessel that passed through nearby systems, while building comprehensive databases of Federation technology and tactical doctrines. The enemy had been studied and cataloged long before they announced their hostile intentions. The fleeing Corvani discovered that humanity's patience ran far deeper than their camouflage technology. Human scout ships emerged from hiding places throughout a dozen star systems, having tracked alien movements for years while remaining completely undetected. Every escape route had been anticipated and prepared with carefully positioned ambush forces. Dr. Williams revealed the true scope of human intelligence gathering as intercepted communications showed the psychological damage spreading throughout Federation space. Reports of impossible human stealth capabilities were causing panic among alien crews who now feared traveling through any system where ghost ships might be waiting in ambush. Commander Thal attempted to reach the safety of Federation reinforcements, but found his damaged fleet hunted through every jump point by enemies, who appeared from nowhere only to vanish again after delivering devastating attacks. His tactical officers reported weapons fire from empty space while their return shots struck nothing but vacuum and scattered debris. The human pursuit forces used adaptive camouflage to appear as natural phenomena that confused alien sensors. Attack ships mimicked asteroid signatures, while fighter squadrons registered as cosmic dust clouds until they opened fire at point-blank range. The fleeing Corvani could not distinguish between genuine space debris and hidden human forces. Major Blake led reconnaissance missions deep into Federation territory using stealth technology that made human vessels undetectable even to the most sophisticated alien sensor arrays. These ships moved through heavily defended systems gathering intelligence while enemy forces remained completely unaware of their presence. The psychological warfare continued as Federation worlds reported impossible sightings of human vessels in their own star systems. Commercial shipping ground to a halt as alien crews refused to travel routes where ghost ships might be lurking. The economic disruption spread faster than any military conquest could have achieved. Captain Reed penetrated the heavily fortified Corvani home system using her stealth fighter to conduct surveillance of their most secure military installations. She recorded detailed intelligence about Federation defenses while floating invisible just outside their primary naval base. The enemy's greatest strongholds offered no protection against opponents they could not detect, the few alien vessels that escaped the initial pursuit found themselves stalked across interstellar distances by human forces that struck without warning before disappearing again into the void. Stories spread of Federation ships found drifting empty with their crews vanished and no sign of how the attackers had boarded or escaped. General Santos established the first permanent human base outside the solar system on a rogue planet that appeared on no Federation star charts. From this hidden stronghold, humanity began recruiting from other species oppressed by alien rule, while teaching them the arts of camouflage and asymmetric warfare against superior forces. The Federation Council convened emergency sessions as reports flooded in from across their territory describing encounters with invisible human forces. Military commanders who had never experienced defeat found themselves helpless against an enemy that could strike anywhere while remaining undetectable until the moment of attack. Commander Thal finally reached Federation space with the remnants of his fleet, only to discover that human forces had somehow arrived ahead of him. Stealth ships that had appeared as sensor ghosts throughout his retreat were now conducting reconnaissance of Federation military installations while remaining completely invisible to defensive systems. Dr. Chun coordinated the expansion of human intelligence networks as invisible monitoring stations were established throughout Federation territory. These facilities recorded all alien military communications while appearing as nothing more than natural cosmic phenomena to enemy sensors. The Federation's own communications networks became windows for human intelligence gathering. The alien government faced a crisis unlike any in their 10,000-year history as they realized they were fighting an enemy that had made the entire galaxy their hunting ground. Traditional military responses proved useless against opponents who could appear anywhere, while remaining undetectable until they chose to strike. Lieutenant Commander Torres supervised the deployment of human agents equipped with personal adaptive camouflage throughout Federation worlds. These operatives moved invisibly through alien society, gathering intelligence and recruiting local resistance movements while remaining completely undetected by security forces. The once mighty Federation found itself paralyzed by an enemy they could not see, predict, or catch. Military installations were struck by attackers who vanished without trace. Supply convoys disappeared along routes that sensors insisted were clear. The psychology of invincibility that had sustained their empire for millennia crumbled under attacks from invisible opponents. Admiral Chun addressed the United Earth Council from the hidden command complex beneath Antarctic ice, announcing humanity's transformation from victims to apex predators. The species that had trembled before alien might now dictated terms from the shadows, while their enemies stumbled blind through space that had become a hunting preserve. The final phase of the operation began as human forces prepared to demonstrate that nowhere in Federation space was truly safe from the species that had mastered the art of becoming invisible. The hunters had become the hunted, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 months after the failed invasion, the Galactic Federation Council met in emergency session on their most secure world, surrounded by defensive fleets that offered no protection against enemies they could not detect. The reports flooding in from across Federation space described a nightmare scenario where human forces appeared and disappeared like supernatural beings, striking military targets before vanishing without trace. Admiral Chun stood in the war room beneath the Antarctic ice sheet, coordinating humanity's expansion beyond the solar system as invisible fleets began appearing in Federation territory. The species that had cowered before alien threats now moved through galactic civilization like apex predators who had claimed the entire galaxy as their hunting ground. The Federation's military commanders found themselves fighting an impossible war against opponents who violated every principle of conventional warfare. Human ships struck from empty space, then disappeared before defensive forces could respond. Supply convoys vanished along routes that sensors insisted were completely clear of any threats. Captain Williams led deep reconnaissance missions into the heart of Federation space using stealth technology that made human vessels undetectable to even the most sophisticated alien sensors. His ships drifted through heavily defended systems, gathering intelligence while enemy forces remained completely unaware that their most secure installations were under constant observation. The psychological warfare proved more devastating than any conventional military campaign. Federation worlds reported impossible sightings of human vessels in their own star systems, while commercial shipping ground to a complete halt. Alien crews refused to travel space lanes where ghost ships might be waiting in ambush, turning the galaxy's transportation network into a weapon against its former masters. Commander Davis established hidden bases throughout Federation territory on rogue planets and in asteroid fields that offered perfect concealment for human operations. These facilities served as staging areas for strikes against alien military installations, while remaining completely invisible to enemy detection systems that could not distinguish them from natural phenomena. The Federation's leadership realized they faced an enemy unlike any in their 10,000-year history of galactic conquest. Traditional military responses proved useless against opponents, who could appear anywhere while remaining undetectable until the moment they chose to attack. The psychology of invincibility that had sustained their empire crumbled under the weight of fighting invisible enemies. Dr. Rodriguez supervised the recruitment and training of resistance movements among species oppressed by Federation rule. Human advisors equipped with adaptive camouflage technology moved invisibly through alien worlds, teaching local populations the arts of asymmetric warfare and guerrilla tactics against superior forces. The once mighty Federation found itself paralyzed by fear as reports spread of human capabilities that seemed to violate the laws of physics. Ships that could become invisible at will, warriors who moved through solid matter, weapons that fired from empty space. The alien government struggled to maintain order as panic spread through their military and civilian populations. Lieutenant Commander Brooks coordinated intelligence gathering operations as human monitoring stations recorded all Federation communications while appearing as harmless cosmic debris to enemy sensors. The aliens' own communication networks became windows for human intelligence services, who knew their enemies' plans before many alien commanders received their orders. President Morgan addressed the United Earth Council announcing humanity's emergence as the galaxy's new apex predator. The species that had prepared for decades to fight a defensive war had instead become the hunters in a conflict that transformed the entire galactic balance of power. The Federation attempted to negotiate from a position of strength, but discovered that human representatives could appear and disappear at will, making diplomatic contact impossible to control or predict. Alien leaders found themselves talking to empty rooms, while invisible human observers recorded every word of their desperate attempts to end the conflict. Captain Foster led the final demonstration of human capabilities as stealth ships appeared simultaneously in orbit around every major Federation world. The coordinated revelation showed that nowhere in alien space was safe from human reach, while proving that the invisible enemy had been watching and waiting for the perfect moment to reveal their true strength. The alien government faced complete collapse as military commanders refused orders that might expose them to human attack. Federation fleets abandoned their positions rather than face invisible enemies who could strike from any direction. The empire that had ruled the galaxy for millennia dissolved under the psychological pressure of fighting opponents they could never see coming. General Martinez supervised the establishment of permanent human presence throughout Federation space as invisible colonies were founded on worlds the aliens thought they still controlled. These settlements existed in plain sight, while remaining completely undetectable to enemy forces who patrolled space. They no longer truly owned. The final scene played out in the Federation's most secure facility as their leadership desperately sought peace terms with an enemy they still could not find. Human observers watched from stealth positions just outside their heavily defended council chambers, proving that the species masters of camouflage could penetrate any defense the galaxy could devise. Dr. Kim revealed the true scope of human achievement. As adaptive camouflage technology spread to other oppressed species throughout the galaxy, the Federation found itself facing not just invisible human forces but entire populations, who had learned to disappear from their sensors while conducting coordinated resistance operations. The war ended not with a final battle, but with the gradual realization that the Federation no longer controlled the space they claimed to rule. Human forces moved invisibly through their territory while alien populations learned that their former masters could be defeated by enemies who refused to fight by conventional rules. Commander Thal sat in his prison cell on a hidden human facility, knowing that his failed invasion had triggered the downfall of galactic civilization's greatest empire. The species he had dismissed as primitive prey had proven to be apex predators who turned the vast emptiness of space into their hunting preserve. Where every shadow held the potential for human retribution, the galaxy entered a new age where humanity emerged from the darkness to claim their place as the ultimate predators in a universe that had learned to fear the species that mastered the art of becoming invisible.